Renaissance Soul.
Welcome to the Renaissance Soul podcast. I'm your host, Kelly K. Fresh Frazier. For this episode of Renaissance Soul, I'm joined by Chloë Drallos to talk about her project under the moniker of Zilched, with her debut full-length album, DOOMPOP. Based on the grunge influence of her teen years, like Nirvana and Jesus and Mary Chain, this new face of Detroit's rock scene hits it out of the park with DOOMPOP, a collection of dark and melancholy songs that dip into the psyche of the young singer-songwriter during those formative years approaching inevitable adulthood. Together, we go through each track talking about the stories behind them, along with life before writing DOOMPOP and the making of this album. So, without further ado, after our break from our sponsor, let's get into this interview with Chloë Drallos, aka Zilched, and her debut album, DOOMPOP. Welcome back to the Renaissance Soul podcast. And for this episode, I'm joined by Chloë Drallos, whose project, Zilched, is basically like her project. She's like, it's like a Nine Inch Nails thing where Zilched is Chloe and Chloe is Zilched. So, we're going to talk about her 2020 album, DOOMPOP. So, thanks for coming on the show.
Thanks for having me.
To start things off, I'm not sure how I came about your music, but it was just like, I just happened to see, it just looked interesting, So, I gave it I like to give a listen to anybody who's, putting out stuff in, the Detroit area. And, I liked it from the jump. I was like, oh, cool. Let me just keep my ears to the ground, in regards to her. And you put out a EP, Pulling Teeth, in 2018, and before you putting out this new album, DOOMPOP. So when did you start fully start writing music? When did you kind of start doing it, and then when did you kind of start taking it seriously?
I've been writing music since I was 11 or 12, just pretty casually. But I used to just play acoustic guitar and stuff, and just as I was learning, I would write stuff. But I never thought I was gonna sing or anything. So it was just something I did and would like to do in the future. But I did not take it seriously or really see how I could do it for a long time. And then halfway through high school was when I decided more, and that's when I I don't know, was more confident with singing what I wrote, because also I don't know, I didn't like having other people sing what I was writing at the time. And then I was just
was that maybe the turning point of it, when you were I'm writing all this stuff, but I don't like other people, singing it. I'm going to have to do it if I wanted to keep on doing this. What was that sort of turning point in your mind?
I don't know. I think I just found music that made sense with my voice. 'Cause I don't know, I listened to, at first when I was writing, I was just really into 60s folk stuff, just beautiful things that I couldn't do myself. And then later I just listened to lots of punk music, and just I'm not much of a shouter, and I just couldn't really see myself doing any of the things that I was getting interested in. But once I just got more into broader, just I got deeper into just alt things, and just lower voices like mine. And which it's funny to think that I didn't hear anything like that until middle of high school. But yeah, just I think that was the turning point. Like a lot with like Jesus Mary Chain, you know, just like the calmer. I don't know.
When did you first start, like, you kind of got the confidence to start recording like music, having your own songs?
That that plays in part with that last thing for sure. My brother got me 'cause he's a musician too. He's quite a bit older than me, but he got me for Christmas one year a couple microphones and an interface, and like I would just like kind of mess with it but not really touch it for like until like the summer after when I had like yeah started singing and stuff privately a bit more, and then I just started demoing things, and a lot of those are still like on SoundCloud and stuff, just like me experimenting
Yeah.
with writing and demoing stuff. That was like yeah that was like very much the turning point time, was when I was like making those demos and stuff in like 2017.
Right. Where did you go from like making those demos to actually having tracks that you'd put on Bandcamp, and then you put out this Pulling Teeth EP?
um Both of those releases so I started playing once I got more songs. I kind of more or less convinced a few friends to be in a band with me. One was my cousin Emily, and then like a friend from her high school, and then my good friend from high school, and his dad happened to have been in bands, and he helped us demo out the first like Bandcamp releases. And then later it was a family friend of my cousin's who had a basement studio. It was very much just like yeah, just people who were we could convince to let us do these things.
How was it like performing, like, for the first time? When did you start performing? What were you how did that sort of transition happen?
um that was kind of like the point of this project, was because I like in this band I just like I really yeah wanted to play shows and get to that point. And so I had like a house show at like my parents' house first, but it was really difficult for me honestly, because like even our first practices I didn't use a microphone, and I just like was so scared. And even my first gigs, like my hand would cramp up because it would get so clammy and I couldn't hold on to the pick, and I was just like so tense. It was pretty rough for like the first 6 months honestly of like stage fright, but then like once I was over it, I was over it.
That's good.
But
What,
and like getting the gigs, it was all just I just yeah would anyone that I knew who I saw that like oh they might know this person, or oh this person I've seen on the internet and they do that, I'll just message them because I have nothing to lose, and it worked.
right, happened just kind of see your name going around town, going online, so you were able to create some sort of awareness in the Detroit area pretty quickly. So that was good. Like, what so coming from all these releases, when did you start really writing the songs that would end up on Doom Pop?
Those I started writing in like the middle of 2018. Um because again like I started out this project very much like yeah when I was just demoing by myself and stuff, but then once I started playing with friends it was like kind of took on a different style, because it's like fun to just make quick punk songs and like have fun with everyone. And so it
Yeah.
it took on like more of a collaborative thing too, because it was just a lot of fun. And then like once people were graduating and stuff like that, it was like okay, this can't really be a collaborative thing. So it, um and I had written Blue Doom while we were still playing other songs and stuff, but I just like didn't consider it a Zilch song. Um, so that was kind of the first of like, okay, now this is going back to its original intentions of the project, and like, so that song really was, yeah, the first one, and I ended up going back and doing a full band version of it.
So, what was, you kind of already touched on it, but
That
like,
makes
what
sense. Sorry.
what was your like, just going into this album, what was your vision at the beginning, and how did it morph as you were, writing, more and more songs? Did it morph at all?
um it took a few songs for me to kind of be like, okay, this is like, this is the record. um but it was, because it was Blue Doom, and then I wrote Sleeper a few months later when I moved to Hamtramck. And that was another thing where I was like, okay, this is like different than what I've done before, but I just felt like I was kind of learning by writing it. And then I wrote Cry for Me. And then like right around then was where I was like, okay, these, I think I just want to keep doing that. It was like, I don't know, it was just like very meta diary entry, like very therapeutic, like
Right.
writing. Cause like when I was just writing the punky garage stuff in the beginning, it wasn't, I, it wasn't as personal or therapeutic or whatever, but I like,
Yeah, let's talk
yeah.
more about that. Like, what's the difference between the stuff that like ends up being on DOOMPOP in comparison to everything beforehand?
Well, also up until then, like I'm 20 right now, so like I wrote the Pulling Teeth songs when I was like 17 and 18. So like I things weren't, not everything was as deep. um
Yeah, and every year when you're at that age, like things change so much, with
yeah,
how you're
yeah.
feeling and dealing with, growing up and stuff like that.
Hmm. um yeah, it, I guess, and because it was more of a shared thing, so I didn't want to get too much into myself, and like with the writing I wanted to keep it a little more open. But after that, like when people like leave a band and stuff, it's like kind of weird for a minute. And then I just was like, it's like rat, just kind of going fully in the other direction of like, I'm just gonna get as personal as I can with everything.
Yeah, it's a nice
And
reset. You can be like, boom, all right, clean slate, boom, let's go.
yeah, yeah. And that, where's the question again? Or what was
How
it?
how is this new material on the album like different than the stuff from previously?
Yeah, yeah, it's just a lot more personal. And I've I was writing much more for the sake of like figuring feelings out and stuff rather than like just going with the song more. Like there's a lot, I had a lot more to say in each song, I think. The
Was there
big
any sort of like how was the songwriting process for this album? Like once you started, were you having any trouble being, more personal with this record?
No. I
It was just bottled up inside of you, man, just ready to come out.
yeah, just like, I don't know, I wrote it all within a year, like almost to the day. It was all like within my first year after high school. And because I wrote Blue Doom in like my last week of high school, and that was kind of like the start of a new chapter or whatever.
Yeah.
And then just kind of like I moved out that summer and stuff, like to Detroit. And like, yeah, I was just like, I was with people that were a lot older than me most of the time. My closest friends were like 5 years older than me and stuff. And
I
like,
feel you.
it was, yeah, it was just like a lot of constant learning things just constantly.
That's how
And
I was when I was your age, man. It was just like I was always with people that were much older than me, and
mhm,
it was just
you
like, oh,
just get so hyper aware of like how you haven't grown up yet, or just like,
But at the same time, you'll realize that like those people don't know shit.
oh right, yeah. But, like, definitely it just like amplifies all of those insecurities of like,
Totally.
like I was just like so hyper aware of everything that I didn't understand, and like every time I learned something new I was just so hyper aware of it for a minute.
Yeah, I was the same way. It was the same way. When you're writing, especially for someone where like this is your project and you're like, all right, I gotta like figure out who's gonna play with me. But you said your drummer is pretty constant and everything. How do you sort of write in regards to how am I gonna perform this also in mind?
um well, before, so with the original lineup, um we were all kind of at the same level in skill, and so I couldn't really write anything that I couldn't already play, you know?
Yeah.
Um, but once I started playing with Nick, who I actually met because I would play shows with his other band, um, his old band, and we like after my drummer couldn't play anymore, I like asked him to hang out and stuff, and like he just like got my taste and everything really well. Like we shared so much music with each other that like he just got it, and he's so talented. Like he's just a machine. And so really like it's really nice to have people that are a lot better than you, like technically better. And same with Elliot, who I started playing with like a few months after that. So I wouldn't have to think about it too much. Like I would have it figured out and I would know what I wanted, and they were pretty much always able to communicate exactly what I was putting out there. If that made sense.
Oh no, definitely. So let's get into the album itself. Kind of go track by track. For each song, just just tell me any thoughts about it. If there's any stories about how it was made or about the song, any thoughts about it, and we'll just go from there. Let me see here. All right. You brought it up a few times, but the first joint on the album is Blue Doom.
Yeah, Blue Doom. I wrote it last month of high school. It was, I don't know, like I went through a bit of things right around then. I knew I wasn't gonna like go to college right away, or potentially ever, and I thought I was gonna be living with one person, and I was like just had this like safe feeling plan, and then like turns out that person wouldn't be able to transfer, and there was just like a bunch of stuff going on, and then I lost a couple pretty close friends, and that song is just like me shouting to the void. Don't know what's going on, but I'm gonna try and just go with it because I don't like feeling like I don't know what's going on ever. So that's kind of, that song's like me just trying to bring myself down.
Yeah, and you're graduating high school, so it was just like I feel like everybody kind of feels that way, where you're like,
yeah, like there's so much build up, and then it's like I just need this to be over, and then so I can get to the next thing because I don't know what the next thing is yet, and I hate this.
right, and then high school ends, and it's just like, all right, that's it.
Yeah.
The next song on here is The Knife. I really like this song.
Thank you. That was one of the last ones written for it, actually. It's more or less a love song, but it's pretty much, it's just about like, I don't know, I was kind of faced with that concept of like caring about people beyond like wanting something from them, you know? And that was like, I'd never been in such like respectful relationships in my life. And that was like, I don't know. It was just like that after the. It's just a lot easier to like be hurt, hurt in different ways of like this. I don't want anything from this, but I'm, I care about it still, and I was really inspired by like, more importantly, uh, like Fiona Apple and like Jason Mary Chain and some whole stuff too, with just like I feel like all of their most like romantic things have really violent imagery.
Yeah.
And so I was really into that idea. I wanted to make that style song because I was like, had never, yeah.
That's good.
I feel like I said too much.
Nah, that's perfect. I like your explanation of that. The next song is Sleeper.
That one's funny. That was fun to write. It's just like that was also after I moved out and stuff, and I was just with boys all the time. All my friends were just music boys, skater boys, and I would get annoyed a lot. Yeah, it was just I don't know, it's just like which it could be with anyone. It's not just dudes, but like
Yeah.
I don't know, just like the really cyclical discussions that you're like how is this a discussion? Like your input means nothing and you just can't believe that people can talk about this thing so much. And like I don't know, to like be talked down to on like the most mundane things that you're like that was I wrote it pretty fast because I was just like this yeah.
Has that gotten better in your life? Do you have like, better
I
conversations?
have a lot more girls in my life now.
That's good. How's that treating you?
It's nice. It's nothing. It was just the first of being like, oh man, there are a lot of people that think a lot different than me too. Which okay, no, that's dumb. I want to take that out if that's possible. But like, I don't know where my head's going now.
No, I feel what you're saying. Where it isn't that like you're. It's like people think differently than you are. It's just like there's just not that connect there with that you're having with certain people, and you're like kind of realizing like why is these like really mundane things so important to you?
Like
is it just low hanging fruit? Just so you can talk about something or what?
Yeah, and just like yeah, like my input means nothing here, but it's like still help. I don't know. You just don't see. Yeah, just I don't even know. I'm sorry. Jeez.
No, it's perfect. It's perfect.
Can't talk.
Right,
and that's what these songs are about. I can't.
The next song is Velcro Dog.
That was the last one I wrote for the record. Pretty much about third wheeling and just like because I just kept finding myself in situations where either like two of my closest friends would start dating each other or all of my closest friends would be in relationships and I would just be like going from couple to hang out and then like sometimes you get like the short end of the stick and it hurts more than it would if it wasn't with a couple or if you weren't alone while it was happening.
I feel you. That like my whole adulthood, even going back to like being a teenager, it was like I was just always single. I was really bad at like even the idea of relationships. So I'd always be like with these couples, and I'm like, yeah, all right, and then they would give me advice, and it would like totally be crappy advice. I mean, it works for you, but
I don't mind like hanging out with couples. That's not a big deal, but it's just like I don't know, kind of that feeling of like when when you all disperse, it's like, you know, you're going to something completely different than the rest of them are.
Yeah.
And it's like,
Yeah, oh, them two are there. They're gonna go have sex.
whatever bad is going on in your life just gets amplified.
Oh, them two are gonna go have sex, and I'm gonna go get a burger.
I'm just gonna go sleep.
I'm gonna go to sleep. The next song is "The Morning."
Okay, that one. I was pretty determined to make that one as it is, and I was doing a lot of. I was just reading and like comparing structures of a lot of like power ballads and stuff that I like a lot of Disintegration and I don't know if you know, Tamarin, that album Crane Kiss. I was just listening to a lot of that type of just dreamy power ballad things, you know, and I wanted a big chorus, and it the topic itself just was kind of just a collage of everything I was figuring out at the moment. I think it's probably it's the kind of the statement, like just the philosophy of the whole album. I feel like is that song and what I say in there, because I wanted to make like a big pop chorus, but like sum up as much of my views as possible versus like a narrative.
The next song is "Cry for Me."
Okay. That one I was in a I was yeah, I just kind of went through something with a very old friend of mine, and like we weren't talking for the first time like ever, and I didn't know how to handle it. And I was just kind of wrote that as I was, you know, just trying to convince myself that there's nothing to be handled, you know, just like kind of that feeling of like you can't force someone to understand you. Like you can only do X amount of things and then it's out of your hands. And I just had to let go of that a lot.
Very understandable. The next song is "Dark Side."
That one is a little more abstract in my head of like an experience and just kind of like more about like a feeling that just translates over a lot, just kind of like I don't know, just kind of isolation basically through like many different parts of daily life, and that's kind of what it was. I don't know.
The next song is 16.
That one is basically just like rehashing the past and just kind of thinking like I don't know, I think this one's gotten interpreted wrong a couple times. People have talked about it. But it really is just about like kind of thinking about how things may have been darker than you thought they were, you know? And kind of like I know there's so many like, oh, she was 17, if you know what I mean. And I was just like, it was like a bad time for a lot of people. So I guess I just wanted to like kind of sum that up and ask questions back, you know, rehashing the past type thing. And like, is this what you mean? Like, I don't know. That's that one.
And the the final song on the album is Teenage Insects.
Um, that one, that one's kind of like the opposite end of the morning, where um, just a lot of insecurities and stuff that I was having, and a lot of that had to do with just like feeling like I was in such a different place in my life than everyone around me. Um, just like I don't know, like I'm 5 years younger than a lot of these people. That's why I'm so much more sensitive. It's not because I'm like an idiot or something, you know? And just, I don't know, just kind of acknowledging that feeling of being a little too sensitive or something mixed in with happening to be younger and less capable than most of the people around you. It's named after a David Lynch painting, though. He has it was like a whole exhibit going on. I haven't seen any of these paintings in person, but I just saw like the title of the exhibit was "I Was a Teenage Insect," and I was just thought that was really cool. It made I don't know like there's like the I was a teenage werewolf and like teenagers from Mars, and that's all like a lot different feeling than I got from hearing I was a teenage insect. And I was like, gonna put that in a song.
Cool. You said earlier that going more personal with your music was very therapeutic. Over the course of making the songs for this album, did you learn anything about yourself? What ways did writing more personally help you?
I think like every song is kind of a lesson for me when I look back at each one. Because I just wrote through each thing that, like, they're kind of, each song for me is a bit more like I was conceptualizing my feelings, for myself. There's not a single one really has like one narrative for me. But it really was like I was actively doing that. Just like really laying everything out every time I went into a song. Or
kind of making things a little bit more tangible, so you can sort of deal with it.
It helps me a lot. And like there's a few things in there that like I still go back to sometimes just in my head of like almost kind of mantra type things throughout the songs. There's a lot of like just things that how I think I should think, you know what I mean? But yeah, that's pretty much.
Was there, did you put any thought about the sequencing of the album, the order of the songs?
Yeah, definitely. That I pretty much put it together pretty fast because there's a bit of an arc there, even though they're not in order, just for me personally. And I don't know, I just kind of like knew once I had them all and looked at them in a list, it just like made a lot of sense.
So, you linked up with Young Heavy Souls for the the release of it. It's gonna you have a vinyl release and you have a CD release. Talk about the the artwork on both of those, like the cover artwork for both of those releases.
Yeah, the album cover, there's a photo that my sister took of me when I was like 17, that I've since before the record was finished, I just kind of like knew I would use it for something with that because I know it like it's from a pretty specific time that I think I like kind of mentally started preparing these types of things,
Yeah.
Like I feel like that's it's just the time that I like really became myself, I think. And I just love that picture and wanted to use it a lot. But I like the idea of, because like a lot of old songwriter albums and stuff will have like the paintings on the cover, and I just like the idea of kind of doing, or well, having someone else do like a very classic looking oil painting of just this like little punk ass picture of me. I just thought it was just cool. I don't know, to kind of immortalize that, because I just think the spirit of the record is present in that photo.
Right.
And I love that's an artist, Phoebe Dobson. She's Australian. We've just been like internet mutuals for a long time, and I really love how she uses color. I'm just a big fan of color, and I wanted to see how she would do like that classic of a portrait with like her use of color, and it is perfect for what I think.
Yeah, it looks really cool. I really dig it.
Thank you.
And what I notice is like there, along with the album cover, there's a certain aesthetic to a lot of the photos that you do. You post online, post on Instagram. Is there like something specific that you have in mind how you want to visually represent your music?
Well, I'm a visual artist too. So like I design all the merch and everything like that. That covers the first thing I've ever had anyone else paint
Okay.
or anything for this, and I've directed all the videos and stuff. It's kind of just, I really do consider it just like my art project,
Right.
Multimedia art project is Zilched. For me, yeah, I don't know. I think I'm just not satisfied ever only having access to one thing. So I need, having like a band is the perfect way for me to just do all the visual and the sound and video and everything. Like it all,
Right.
it's all just, yeah, my art. I don't know.
I remember one time Grimes had a quote where she said she just likes to make albums so she can make videos for those songs.
Oh. I don't know if I feel quite that way,
but it was like in the same kind of realm where like you're making this music, but you want to do other things too that kind of attach to it.
Yeah, because I think there's, like I'm just kind of constantly consuming most types of art and media, and I'm inspired. A lot of like my biggest inspirations and stuff are like just things that get treated more like an art project, like it's a multi-dimensional world.
Yeah.
And I think it makes it more personal too if you like give it that many dimensions. And it's nice to see that it gets like people pick up on it, that there is that it's specific whatever world.
Yeah. Is there any music artists that like really influenced you in that way, where like you liked their music, but you liked the whole packaging, the whole sort of artistry of the look and the sound all put together?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of them. I love, like I've already mentioned Jesus and Mary Chain a few times.
Yeah.
But they're one where like they're pretty consistent throughout all of, like they've put out so many records throughout space of time, but like I just feel like any artist that's being like super true to themselves and all their decisions, like it's gonna be pretty consistent in, like even like David Bowie or something, like yeah, he did a lot of different things, but there was always like a consistent link through all of it, and it was just that it was his decisions.
Yeah.
PJ Harvey, I love Sonic Youth, of course, and that's a big one where it's a full art project.
Yeah.
And there's so much to it, but like it just makes it like more engaging to me. Um, yeah.
So once you have this album done, it's recorded, like this is the finished product, what was your thoughts, listening to it like the first time?
Um, I was pretty happy. I had listened to everything so much throughout making it too, though. Because I made it with Ben Collins, and he's got other bands, and he's a sound guy, and he does works on robot stuff, and like he's just very busy guy. So, um, it took like 6 months to of just meeting up when we could to work on stuff. Um, so which was good though, because I was able to just like really listen and get all of the ideas out, and you know, finish one thing and then listen to it in the car and listen to it when I get home and then listen to
Yeah,
it back on
talk
the
more
next.
about that. What you learned about like sort of the recording process, the mastering process. What you learn about being an artist. Paying attention to those things.
I learned so much working with Ben. And like why like I wanted to work with him, and like I told him when we first started talking about it that like I wanted to be a part of every inch of it. Um cuz like I have a lot of ideas and stuff, and like I had like lists for every single song of just like different things for different parts, but I didn't know what any, all the terms of everything, or like how to do a lot of the sounds that I would hear in my head. Um, but it was cool, like because it's just at his house. He's got a studio in his house, and we would just like, eat snacks and just pull up references and stuff for songs, and just it was very just like relaxed and creative, just talking through all of it.
You-
Which was
Has
cool.
has that experience? Have you do you continue to write now these days? Have you continued to write, and how's that experience sort of, influenced your new songwriting?
Um, my writing patterns have been kind of different. And I feel like I've still kind of been in the space of this record, just because like I was, after finished writing it, like I worked on it for 6 months, and I'll write more just like poetry things
Yeah.
pretty consistently. But I don't know. It's like it's hard to say how it's affected. Like definitely if I'm like demoing something I know a lot more, and it's a bit easier. Because I definitely was just winging everything before and just pressing buttons, seeing how it sounds and going from there. Um, but I don't know. Um, it's hard to say. The world's weird, and it's fucked up my creative processes.
Yep, yep, yep. So you have this record, this album, it's on vinyl. How's it feel? You had a an EP before, 7 inch with Pulling Teeth, but like how does it feel to have like this album on vinyl?
So I actually haven't seen the vinyl yet.
Oh, you haven't even seen the vinyl yet? Okay.
They're supposed to be done well, the late date was this week, and then I just found out yesterday that they're not going to be done until next Friday.
But did you get a reference vinyl like to listen to?
I got the test pressing, and that was, yeah, that was cool to like sit with it. Um, I got that one last week or the week before. So it was after the album had already been out. Um, but
How did
yeah,
the test pressing feel? Just to hear like this album, this personal album, on vinyl.
it was pretty cool. Yeah, I just like put it on, sat in my bed, and yeah, it was. as I've heard it so many times, because I've had it, like I worked on it for 6 months and then finished doing stuff in early March. Like I finished the masters in early March. So then, or I got the masters in early March, and that was right when everything happened.
Yeah.
So then I sat with everything, and we didn't really start scheduling out this release until July. Um, and I have just listened to this record so many times, and I know every little bit of it and how to judge every little bit of it. But yeah, it was nice to just hear it in a different way for the first time in a long time.
Yeah, and I don't know, releasing this album during a pandemic, there's no shows, but I did be able to catch the live stream in on Andrew's basement, and you guys sounded great. How is it to be able to perform these songs, even just at one time in a basement?
It felt really good. And it made me even more sad after about not being able to play shows, because yeah, like, so I mean, we've been playing a few of the songs for a while.
Yeah.
But like that was the first time playing Velcro Dog, playing The Knife, Teenage Insects, Cry for Me. um those four I had never been performed until then, and it's just like, yeah, it was cool. Like, I'm glad we did it and stuff, and people got to see it, but it did just like, oh shit, I like this performance. I've had the same set for like a year of touring, It's like, now I want to do it with this, and I can't, but it's okay.
Right. You guys sounded good. I was at the show you opened last winter for the Paranoids, but I missed your set because I had to go somewhere else early on. But that was, that was a really fun show. I saw you go on stage and do a song with them.
Yeah, I love that band. I've actually like been listening to them since they first started putting stuff out when I was like 16, and I've seen them play so many times, and that's how they know me, just like as a fan. and and just like through Instagram and stuff, like they saw me like start a band and stuff. So then the next time they were able to come through, it was cool because I saw them in Chicago with Bleached, which was a really great show, and we talked about the band stuff. And then Outer Limits is the ones that told me that they asked for Zilch to open, so it was just very special little thing.
I think that might have been the last show that I went to before the pandemic hit.
Last one too, or no, I went to Hamtramck Music Fest. That was after that, but
Right.
that was the last like one I was a part of.
Right.
Oh, well, full band.
Closing out this this interview about DOOMPOP, like, what do you hope like people who listen to this record get out of it?
I don't know. I just hope that like people feel some type of sincerity from it, and just like, it's relatable or whatever. Because like I get a lot out of records. Like, I need to get a lot out of records. So, and I wouldn't put anything out that like I wouldn't want to hear,
Yeah.
So I know it's hard to say exactly what I want people to get out of it, but I guess just whatever they go to records for, because it is all sincere, and I don't know.
Right. Yeah. You have a certain things that you like to get out of records. So you're like, let me do that for someone else, hopefully.
Yeah,
And,
I think so.
And if you're honest and sincere about your feelings, somebody is going through the same shit.
Mm-hmm. For sure. And like, yeah, that's something that I feel like a lot of musicians my age and in my age group tend to like shy away from a bit, because it's not that cool, maybe. But I don't know, I think that's important, and that's, yeah, at the end of the day, that's all that matters, really, in my opinion.
How do you not like go into that trap where like you said, like other your peers don't think that, stuff like that would be cool? Like how are you able to just get past that and say, I just want to do this the way I want to?
I don't know. I feel like people didn't think I was cool until I had been doing this for a minute. So that's where I'm like, I got nothing to lose. My expectations of what people think of me are very low. So
I think you're doing all right.
Thank you.
Who cares what anybody says? You're doing all right.
Thank you.
You're really in touch with a lot of things through these songs, probably more than a lot of other 20-year-olds. So you're doing fine.
Thank you.
We're all in the same boat these days with this pandemic. So
yeah,
screw it. All right. Before we get out of here, where can people go online to get more information about the new album DOOMPOP, and where can they follow you at?
Anywhere they want to, except Twitter. I'm not on Twitter. Yeah, just Instagram is like the most, well, and Facebook, it's like the most consistent updates, but it's on all platforms. It's best if you buy the physical copies, which you can get to off of Bandcamp.
Thank you for listening to the Renaissance Soul podcast, hosted and produced by myself, Kelly K. Fresh Frazier, empowered by Anchor at anchor.fm/Renaissance Soul. Renaissance Soul theme music provided by Steve O. You can find more of his productions at iamsteveo.bandcamp.com, and that's EYEAMSTEVEO.bandcamp.com. Renaissance Soul is available on all streaming platforms. Please rate and review on Apple Podcasts and Stitcher. If you want to support Renaissance Soul, please consider pledging via Patreon at patreon.com/freshastheword. Follow Renaissance Soul on social media, on Instagram at RenSoulPodcast and on Twitter at RenSoulPod. And join the Facebook group at facebook.com/groups/freshastheword. And for more information on Renaissance Soul, visit freshasthepodcast.com. Thank you for listening and your support. Goodbye and good night.
Renaissance Soul.